And so it is, my dear ones. Isn't that a wonderful thing to know? It's even a better thing to become and to be in expression. But that's not going to happen unless I can have it become and be in my thinking first. And that drops down into my feeling. And then my thinking and feeling combined produce my response to life and living. And once that thinking and feeling is synergistic with the unity and the harmony and the oneness of life, only good flows through me. Only good flows through you. That's how it happens. It happens not by you and by me, coming into the awareness of the presence, feeling perturbed and disturbed and all shook up and all broken and battered and bruised. That's the longer route. The shorter route, when I feel battered and broken and bruised and nothing's going my way and everybody else seems to be doing fine, but I'm not, and it doesn't seem fair. I can come in that state. The difference is if I come in that state praising and blessing and thanking divine substance, divine source, divine providence, that all lives, dissipates itself in the truth of the celebration of the amazing awesomeness of life. The one life, the whole life, the perfect life. The life that is mine, the life that is yours right now. No matter what it looks like, feels like, no matter you think or feel, I can no more go there right now. I can no more go there right now than I can under my own steam, on my own lonesome self, climb Mount Everest and come back down feeling great. That's the exact time when you and I have to do it, if we really want to heal, mend or fix something, or let go of something, or open up to receiving something. It's basic. It's basic. It's just the law of creative mind, because the law of creative mind is a law of correspondence, Just the universal energy that we call consciousness can only respond to us according to how we're feeling and how we're thinking, and no other way. No other way. So really, if you think about it, in a sense that prayer is just one great big release, surrender, letting go, stepping outside the brokenness, stepping outside the circumstances, stepping outside the sickness, stepping outside whatever it is we're buried in and we're immobilized by, and then starting to sing the praises of true life. True life is whole life. It's complete life. It's perfect. And no matter what's going on with you, that is within you. It is your inner truth and your inner essence. And it has always remained in its pristine state of wholeness and completeness of being. What we're experiencing as egoic human beings is the result of our egoic minds thinking and allowing ourselves, as a consequence of that, feeling all that's wrong, instead of looking at what is right. And sometimes there may be just a little bit, a few crumbs of what is right going on in your life, and all the rest seems so wrong. But we take the daily bread of those crumbs, and we bless those crumbs. And we see those crumbs not as crumbs, but as a great big loaf of goodness that takes care of all of our needs. And even in this dire state, some of us are able to take a crumb or two from the few and share. And that speeds things up even more. It's a beautiful thing, this thing called life. But at times it's a terrible beauty. It's a terrible beauty at times when everything doesn't feel right. Now, feelings are one thing, thoughts are another. If we're going to be thinking constantly along the line of negativity, we're going to produce a situation in our lives that will respond to that negativity. If I'm just feeling, off and everything's not right, just the feeling of it, that's not as powerful and potent as a permanent thought that runs through my mind. Feelings come and feelings go. That's why you hear me say a lot. Don't ever say, I am, and then add a negative. Because I am are the most powerful words that ever could be uttered. The great I am was the only name that the ancient ones could come up with for the divine one life, infinite being. That's very potent and powerful. So every time you say I am, follow it with an affirmative, a positive. And when things are not going right, you say, well, I feel things are not going right. I feel a little sick. I feel whatever, a little down. I feel. Because they come and go, feelings. They're not anything as powerful. However, when you back up a thought with a conviction, a feeling, that's super empowering the thought. And the thought will be realized more quickly as a result of that. So let's be careful with what we're thinking. Let's watch our feelings, and let's do adjustments accordingly. So, my dear ones, this morning as I was in my morning practice very early, I was wondering what it was Spirit had in store for us today. And of course, I put out my hand, picked up a book, and it was a wonderful book by Eric Butterworth. And I just opened a page, as I do every day. I'll open a page in a book or two or three and see put my finger somewhere and see what it is that I'm supposed to know today. So with this one, I put my finger on this paragraph. And Eric says, there is a tendency that prevails in human beings, in human consciousness, that we all must come to grips with. We all have to come to grips with this. Man harbors a kind of subconscious sense of self-pity for the inequities of life. That's what it is. I have it underlined and I couldn't make it out. For the inequities of life. So we have this kind of subconscious self-pity around the inequality of life, the inequities of life, the unfairness of life at times. We secretly feel that other people get all the breaks and that our lot in life has not been fair or just. Now, if this fits you, or if you can identify with that well and good, if it doesn't, good for you. Good for you. You're in a good spot. So when we get hold of a spiritual concept that seems practical and livable, we can hardly contain our desire to pass it on to other people. So when we manage to come out of that funk and something dawns on us, whether it's from within or without, we get giddy with delight. We want to share it with everybody. It's like converts. When anybody's converted to anything, whatever it is, they want to try and go around and convert everybody around them. They want them to have the same wonderful woohoo experience. Well, it is just what my husband or boss or the next door neighbor needs to hear on the other side of the affirmative. And you and I, I'm sure, are guilty of that. We've often heard something that was really eye-opening, and we say, I wish John could hear that. I wish Mary was here to hear that. That would do her good. That would do him good. But you know what? It's nothing to do with Mary or John. It has to do with you and me in the moment. It's for us, not for them. We got it, and it's for us. Leave Mary, leave John alone is the message here. And this reveals that we secretly feel that these people are the cause of our problems, or close to. Unless this tendency is faced and corrected, our religious study can lead to a completely hypercritical attitude. Have you noticed that around in people, that hypercritical attitude? Have you noticed it in yourself at times? These are good things. They're just reminders for us to make sure that we're doing okay and we're staying on track and we're on our spiritual path trajectory. We haven't, veered to one side or the other or fallen off it, Because anything that comes to us like this is for me. It's not for others. It's for me. It's for me to know and me to apply and me to benefit from. So, a story, I love this little story. A story of unknown authorship tells of a Persian family in which a pious son rose early to read the Quran each morning and to meditate and to pray. As you may know, that Muslims pray 5 times a day, and they start very early in the morning, sunset at night. So one morning his father awoke while his son was performing his devotions. Then the son says to the dad, "Your other children are lost in irreligious slumber while I alone awake to praise God." That reminded me very much of the Pharisee in the temple, the story that Jesus tells, of the Pharisee who's praising himself and saying, "God, I'm so glad you made me not like other people, especially this man down there at the end of the temple." And it was, a very ordinary, everyday person came in, just stood inside the door, and he was bowing his head and was asking for mercy. And so he said, "I'm glad I'm not like other people, and especially like this guy. Look at me, I'm just wonderful. I give alms to the poor, and I pray several times a day, and so on. I'm grateful. Thank you for making me this way." So this little boy reminds me of the same thing when he says, "Your other children are lost in irreligious slumber while I alone am awake to praise God." The wise father answered, and I love this, "Son of my soul, it is better to sleep than to awake to notice the faults of others. Son of my soul, it is better to sleep than awake to notice the faults of others." And I thought, what a perfect answer to this situation. And then it reminded me of something else. It reminded me of Jesus when he was, everybody around was saying this one and that one should do this and this one and that one should do that. And he'd had enough and he just said, "You know what? Why don't you look at the great hulking log in your own eye before you try and remove the mote from your neighbor's eye?" Now, the mote goes back to an old ancient word that means piece of wood dust, sawdust, whereas the log, or the beam, it says in Scripture, the beam in your eye could be a big plank. So Jesus is saying, for heaven's sakes, have you not seen the big hulking thing hanging out of your own eye? How come you cannot see that and you can see a tiny little speck in your neighbor's? First and foremost, take care of the beam in your own eye, and then maybe, just maybe, you might be able to help your neighbor to get the speck out of his, her eye, you see. But that's kind of how it is out there when you look around and you listen into people's conversations. Not because you want to listen into people's conversations, but nowadays, have you noticed everybody bawls and shouts their conversations? Doesn't matter where they are. You're in the supermarket and somebody's shouting, and you look at them, you think, oh my God, they're shouting at themselves. And then you remember, no, they have a bud in their ear, and they're on the phone and they're talking to somebody. And it's all coming out. The good, the bad, and the indifferent, and even personal stuff that I wouldn't want anybody bawling in a supermarket about, that's for certain, sure. So nothing of that nature seems to be hidden, really, not much anymore. Doesn't matter where you go, you hear the same thing. It's fun when you can hear people and you're not endeavoring to eavesdrop, but you could just hear their conversations to listen to what they're talking about. Try it sometime. Try it sometime. I can remember once taking a friend of mine as a real treat, and I had to save up a lot because I was just teaching at the time. And I took them to this glorious, glorious place that was supposed to be super duper and very expensive for lunch. And so we were in there having lunch. It was a birthday. And then a group of ladies were seated quite close to us. They were the nearest people to us. And the entire conversation was all about the latest surgery they all had, or whatever it was that was going on of that nature. And the whole thing was of that energy. And it really was not conducive to people in there to be mellow and have a nice time and relax and so on. And I just became more conscious from that point on with regard to what was going on in the environment around me. And so the environment in our heads is the most important one. And out of the environments in our heads flow the way we listen, the way we speak, the way we interact with others. And so we want that environment to be a good one, an environment where you feel safe in yourself. And certainly anybody who enters into it will feel safe too. That mental environment that affects your emotional environment and your whole life. So I thought these words were beautiful, reminders that it's better to be asleep than to be awake and being hypercritical. I don't know what you think about it, but I thought it was very apropos for all of us. And then he says, there would be a world-sweeping renaissance throughout all religions if people would become aware that religion deals with but one thing, the relationship of the individual with his or her God, source. That's all. That's all we're here to do, to be in conscious relationship with our source. And if we are, it follows, we'll be in conscious relationship with everything and everyone else around us. How wonderful that would be. Every individual has a built-in capacity for divinity, but she must discover these depths and activate the process of their own spiritual growth. This is a full-time job for each individual. We hardly have enough time to take care of our own spiritual life, for less telling everybody else what theirs ought to be. It's good observation here that's being shared. Full-time job. When we are busily engaged in removing the beam from our neighbor's eye, we have no time or inclination to try and remove the beam from our own eye. Now, very often, isn't that what we do? To some degree, all of us have done this. You know when you have something difficult to do and you can't manage to even bring yourself to think about it, far less do it. And then you make yourself very busy doing something else because that's been waiting for a long time now, and I'm going to fix it and take care of it today. I'll take care of that today. And all the time there's a shadow following you saying, you're doing the wrong thing, the wrong task. You're supposed to be over there taking care of that. And then you get more busy until you can shut out the nudge that says, you're avoiding, you're in avoidance, you're avoiding, you're postponing. You see, we all have had experience to some degree or another of doing that. So I suppose when we want to fix, amend everybody else, it's because we're avoiding doing it for ourselves. That would be the analogy. And I see it all the time. I mean, people who are especially in the people business, where they're taking care of people in some way or another, they neglect themselves greatly in the care and help of other people. And it's not supposed to be that either. It's not supposed to be that either. I think the more you take care of yourself and the more whole and complete you feel, the more you have to bring to other people. The best of yourself you bring to other people, not your weariness, not your tiredness, not your fumes, as I like to say, because people all have their own fumes. They don't want us adding any more to them, even though the intention and the heart is very good around it. I mean, the more energetic we are, the more we bring, the greater the gift we bring to each other. And don't take anything for granted that you hear, anyone's word, my word, or anybody else's. Just, figure it out for yourself. If something like that kind of moves you to think about it, and then you respond to it the way you're called to respond to it. If there's anything there for you, then run with it. Learn from it, go with it, grow from it. That's the way it all works out in the end, for the better. So, he also says, he reminds us that we can't push on other people what they're not ready or even wanting to hear, no matter how good it is. We cannot be doing that. We cannot be saying, you got to this and you got to that, and you must do this and you must do that, and so on. No. They're not where you are. And just because you're excited and delighted about something, you're sharing it with somebody else may just annoy them instead of the opposite. So, again, he says, leave John and Mary and Joseph and Sheila and all the rest of them alone. Let them come to their own truth. And you can assist that by living your truth. And when they see it in you and what happens to you because you're living your truth, they'll ask you questions. How come you're so, easygoing? How come you're so placid and you're so non-perturbed when you're in awkward and difficult situations and you don't lose your patience and so on? Well, now there's your opportunity to say, well, I think it's because I have the spiritual practice and I've noticed the changes in myself since I really, I'm committed to it. And I'm grateful that that's why I am able to cope much better than ever I could before with anything that crosses my path. And let them ask questions. It's difficult for us all to mind our own business, basically. We're busybodies. And it's hard for us to mind our own business. And yet, that's the key. That is the key. Now, there's more in this, and I will share more of it with you next time, unless something else is desperately needing to have itself expressed through us so that we can get it. But any of Eric Butterworth's books are well worth reading. This is the power of consciousness, the power of consciousness. And in the beginning and in the middle and in the end, it always comes back to that. What's going on in your mind? Because what's going on in your mind is what's going on in your life. It's as challenging as that, actually. So that's why you and I are first and foremost stewards of our minds. because our minds affect our emotions, and our emotions and mind together affect our bodies, and then all of us are affected. And being affected in that way, we show up as a compilation of this either blessed or unholy trinity. It's up to you. And it is truly all in the mind. The good, the bad, the indifferent. It comes from mind. So your mind is your mine to mine, if that makes any sense. Dig deep and find the treasure in there, and allow that light within you to guide you, and that power within you to guard you, and that love within you to sustain you, and that peace within you to make that beautiful difference in your life whereby you can be composed no matter what, and you can maintain and sustain your equilibrium. That's what we're all aiming at. And it's not out there, and it's not a journey out there. It's the journey within, and the answers within, and the way within that we want to tap into. That's why the mining I'm talking about is inner mining. It contains the treasures of the kingdom of heaven within. Within. And no one can go within you except you. No one. Others can show the way, point the way, and help you along the way. But then when you get to that mine shaft, you have to enter in. You have to go deep. You have to dig up what is already yours. And you can. Why? Because you know I am, therefore I can. Therefore I am. What am I? I'm doing it. I'm being it. So have a great good day. Trust yourself, know yourself to be more than anything you could ever think of yourself to be, no matter how good that is, and certainly no matter how bad that is. Trust yourself. Allow yourself to trust yourself, and then, you know what? Life is going to trust you. And as you are to life, so life is to you. That's what we must always remember. But as much as I would love to stay in your company, it's time. It's time for our little celebration of our fullness and our plenty. And I like to celebrate fullness and plenty. I like to be aware of how blessed I am, to the point that I have something that I can share. From the goodness that is mine, I get to share. I get to share. And I delight in that experience of sharing. And I know you do too. So let's take our gift between our blessing hands and say, it's divine life, divine love, divine givingness. Blesses this gift. Blesses this gift so it can go forth to bless, to heal, to uplift all those who give and all those who receive. And I am happy and I rejoice in this ability of mine to have enough from which to share. And I bless it and I release it with love and I let it go out into the world to do good and make a difference. And so it is. So my dear ones, stay up in energy. Do what it takes every day to fill your energy higher when it's dropping, when it's sinking, and don't ever let it go below 51%, for heaven's sake, because then it's a greater struggle to refill. At 51%, you're fine. You can fill up easily. You can catch yourself on and say, okay, time to breathe deeply, time to, shake up the energy, time to do whatever it is I must do for me in this moment now in order to raise up that wonderful sense of everything being okay. You can. So just do it. Just do it. And until we meet again, I'm knowing you're going to stay healthy, you're going to stay strong, you're going to stay open to being the release to all of that great good that is within you, and as a consequence, blessing all life and living. Thank you so much for all that you are and all that you do and the beautiful difference you're making in our world. You certainly are part of its healing process, and I thank you for that. And I thank you for our great community being here and your support of it, ensuring the legacy of our wonderful center here in Redondo Beach for spiritual living. And so until we meet again, stay connected, stay tuned in first and foremostly to the presence within you and around you. And then stay tuned in to all the good that's going on, and stay tuned in to what's happening here. We'll keep you posted. And thank you for every good thing. You are amazing. Now, go and amaze yourself. You're the only one you need amaze. You're awesome, and so I leave you with the greeting of the children when they say farewell. And so it is. Good, well done. Good team. Another one in the cat.